I'm Melissa Batt, and this is God-Sized Dreams, the go-to podcast for Christian women who know they were made for more, but feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and stuck in survival mode. I'm your Jesus-loving hype girl, here to help you break free, build simple, healthy rhythms, and take small baby steps towards the life God has for you. If you're ready to trade fear for freedom, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get to it. Hey, before we start, if you're overwhelmed and want a clear next step, I can help you. You can choose a single unstuck session or commit to 6 months of breakthrough coaching at melissabatt.com/breakthrough-coaching. Welcome back to another episode of God-Sized Dreams, formerly known as Priorities on Purpose, where we help Christian women overcome fear, procrastination, insecurities, and mental health struggles with faith-filled baby steps. I'm your host, Melissa Batt, and today's guest is Dr. Brittany Anderson, a family physician, educator, community leader, and host of the podcast, Headed to Healthier. You may be like, what does this have to do with God-Sized Dreams, Melissa? It has everything to do with it, friend, because God has given us this call to circle the wagon. And so this episode is all about helping you learn to circle the wagon. We are calling out all of these areas where you need to be paying attention. And if the enemy is going to come and wreak havoc on your life, one way he will do that is through our health. There are some things that we can do to minimize those attacks, and that's by being proactive with our health. We talk about so many things, why so many women push through until their bodies sit them down. The silent signs you shouldn't ignore. Hello, high blood pressure. How to build a baseline for your health so changes don't catch you off guard. Practical first steps if you're scared, ashamed, or haven't seen a doctor in years. And talking sleep, nutrition, and asking for help. Quick note, nothing here is personal medical advice. Use this episode to get equipped and then book your checkup and talk with your doctor. All right, let's get into it with Dr. Brittany Anderson. Hey, friends, if you haven't been to the doctor forever, maybe it's time for a checkup. You know what I'm saying? Welcome, Dr. Anderson, to the show. I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so excited to be here with you. Even just us chatting a little bit before we started recording, I know this is going to be fun. We have so many things to dive into today, and I'm excited to share with you and with your listeners today.
Yes. So I just want to jump into this. We know that as women, a lot of the time, we are going a million miles a minute, and we go until we pretty much are sat down. We wait until there's physical issues. I know for myself, it was the physical issues that came in my life was like, okay, clearly that wasn't sustainable. And I had to have a seat. I had to lay down. I ended up in bed for a time period. I ended up with high blood pressure. I ended up with physical swelling, looked like I was having an allergic reaction, but apparently you can get that from stress. Lots of mental health issues, the anxiety, all the things. Like for a long time, I could deal with it on my own, but it got to a certain point when I can't do this anymore and I need to take better care of myself, but also be intentional with what I'm doing and listening to my body. So I would love to hear on your end, what are you seeing as a doctor in this space? What are you seeing from your patients? And I'm sure you have a message. We all have them, right? So I'm giving you the microphone. Step up on that soapbox. Talk to me. Talk to us.
All right, friend. Well, I'm stepping on my soapbox because you are so right. God made us absolutely in his image, but he made us as powerful beings, and in our body will do so much, right? I'll say that our bodies will do so much until our bodies say, all right, friend, you have worn me out and I just can't do it anymore. And I mean our body as a whole. I mean our physical body. I mean, mentally, we can get to a point, just like you said earlier, we push ourselves. Everyone's busy. We've got work, we've got kids, we've got extracurricular activities, we've got church, we've got other stressors that are there. And we put those things unknowingly sometimes, but also sometimes knowingly, we put those things ahead of taking care of ourselves. And again, your body is going to try to compensate for those things for as long as it can, but it does get to a point where you just can't go anymore and your body will truly start to shut down on you. You made a point earlier about saying if you've not had a checkup, you need to go get a checkup. And that is where I get on my soapbox, because that is what I scream from the rooftops anytime someone allows me the chance to speak. I don't so much have to do it in my clinic because clearly my patients are there in my clinic seeing me. But if I get the chance anywhere else, I'm saying, when is the last time you had a checkup? I often try to remind people that you don't have to be sick to go to the doctor. Once a year, feeling what you think is your best self, you need to go into a doctor, right? Because there's so many things that we don't get symptoms from, even hypertension. So hypertension or high blood pressure, hypertension is known as the silent killer. And a reason that we call it the silent killer is because so many people have no symptoms from it at all. Unless you're getting your blood pressure checked, you may be one of those people who has no idea that their blood pressure is high. I read this crazy stat recently that said something 4 out of 10 people have a diagnosis of hypertension and don't even know it. And the reason they don't know it is because they're not getting those regular checkups because they quote unquote feel fine. And I see in my clinic, I'm a family medicine physician. So I see everything, right? From birth to death, room to the tomb. I see so much hypertension in my family medicine practice, so much diabetes, thyroid issues, obesity, so many people with mental health struggles like anxiety and depression, things that we can prevent a lot of those things, right? And things that we can get on top of early if we're getting those regular checkups. I love that that's where you started the conversation with saying, if you have not been to the doctor in some time, you need to get there and you need to get there soon.
Yes. I feel this is one of the things that I've talked about a lot. I think I shared this in the beginning. I don't think I've shared it yet once we hit the record, but God told me, I think probably 2020, I think, like, circle the wagon, start getting, like, you got to get things in order. Yeah. And also to start sharing this message to other people, like, you've got to get things in order. It's not to scare you, it's to prepare you that when you are walking in the will of God and you are on mission, the enemy's going to come to attack. Mm-hmm. And your wagon does not have to be as exposed as it is. There are certain areas that, like, yes, you may end up with a flat tire. You might have an issue, but we can do so many things. And the idea of being proactive instead of just waiting until it's too late, waiting until we have a heart attack or those kind of things, being proactive and recognizing that this body, I've not been someone that has taken care of myself for a long time. I've treated my body like a machine instead of the gift that God has given me to live out this life. He's really called me, and I think he's called all of us, some of us just don't recognize it yet, to be a good steward of all of these things, right? Absolutely. So, like, be a good steward of my body means I have to pay attention. I have to nurture it. I didn't know. I've had lots of issues with loving myself, like feeling unworthy and all of that I've had to work through. But one of the things, diet culture, gosh, that's a whole nother episode.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Like, I've done all the things. I never lost weight because I wanted to be healthy. I did it just to be skinny. Mm-hmm. And part of this work that I've been doing over at least the last 5 years since God's challenged me on this is like, listen, like, while I would love to be skinny, I really want to be healthy. Mm-hmm. And healthy is what I need to walk out this mission that God has given me. And so what can I do to be healthy? What can I do today to prepare and be proactive, to be intentional? There are lots of things that are silently asking for your attention, whether it's your kids or your spouse or your body. We need to pay attention. And so what would you say for someone who, a lot of my audience, I think they struggle with mental health. They struggle with self-worth and just recognizing we got to stop procrastinating. We have to just make that move and schedule the appointment. What would you say are some of those very first things that someone can do who is really struggling but knows that they need to do something? What if they're afraid of the doctor or they've been judged at the doctor? I hear that a lot. They don't take me seriously, or they're intimidated. They haven't been to the doctor in a long time and they feel bad going back. A lot of people, like I've talked to a lot of women who's like, I was one of these, totally guilty. It just came to me. I remember like, I will go after I lose this 20 pounds. I know I put on weight and I don't want to get on that scale and have it recorded in my history that I gained weight. So what do you say to that? Totally different direction than where I thought we were going to go. But
no, that's okay. I love this.
Yeah, me too. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, I'm family medicine doc, and over the last few months, we've been taking new patients. What you just said rings so true, not just with you, but with other folks who come in and say, I've put off going to the doctor for a long time, Dr. Anderson, in that they really had some consternation and just back and forth within their own minds about even scheduling the appointment because they feel like they're not where they need to be. And my response to them is, well, my friend, that is why you're here. All right. All of us are a work in progress. And I tell them, and sometimes I'll get up and give them a hug and say, you know what? I'm so glad you are here. If you are working to get to where you want to be, then I'm here to work with you on that. We're not supposed to come into really anything in life fully 100% ready to hit the ground running, ready to take off, right? Or where we already need to be. We instead just need to be prepared to hit the ground running. So for folks who have that mindset, who say, gosh, when I get XYZ done, then I'll make a doctor's appointment, or, when I improve my blood pressure, then I'll go to the doctor. Well, that's way too late. You're not giving me a chance to do my job then. If you come in already completely healthy and perfect and everything is great with your body and your mental and physical health, then you don't give me the chance to use this medical education that I spent so much time and money on. So think of it that way, right? Think of it like you are doing that doctor a favor because you're giving them the opportunity to use their knowledge to help you get to a healthier space. And so if we think kind of logistically, stepwise where to go, first is to find a physician, right? So look locally around you, find someone who is taking new patients at that time, and make a list. Make a list of 3 or 4 docs that look good on paper, that you have checked out their Facebook, check their Google reviews. You've really read them to see what people are saying. If you read their Google reviews and everyone's saying, oh my gosh, this person is mean and I feel like they don't listen to me, and all those things that we kind of condition ourselves to think is going to happen, then okay, maybe that's not the person for you.
Yeah.
But find someone, 1 or 2 people that you feel like you'd be comfortable with, and call their office and see if they're scheduling new patients then. If they are, make the appointment. That is all you can do. Make the appointment. And so before you get into the appointment, I have an episode on my podcast I love, and it's called just preparing for your first doctor's appointment, right? So making yourself get the most out of that appointment. But what I'd ask you to do is to make a list of all the things that you have questions about regarding your health. Now, you may put 75 things on this list, and that's okay, because the idea is to get you to start thinking, these are the things I have questions about regarding my body. Now, I will be honest with you, you're not going to go into any doctor's office and be able to go through all of those 75 things. So after you do that, pick out the top 5, right? Because then you can go into that appointment with an agenda that, Dr. Anderson, Dr. So-and-so, these are the 5 things that I'm most worried about. Because when I see a new patient in my clinic, I don't walk in doing all the talking initially. I walk in and sit down and say, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me why you're in my office today. What brought you into my office today? And that gives the patient just a free time to open up, to tell me a little bit about their medical history, but more importantly, to tell me about those things that they're worried about. Because if we can find that common ground, if I can meet folks where they are, and we can really start to establish a relationship and build what we call a message, build some rapport with them, that's the only way that we're going to really be able to together affect their health and make some real changes. So first is find a doc that you feel good going to. Make a list of those things that are concerning to you about your health or things that you have questions about. And then make a list of a couple things that let's say in 1 year, so 1 year from the date, where you want to be health-wise. And I think that also gives your new position and just gives you for yourself a chance to say, all right, these are the things that I want to work on to get to a healthier version of myself. So I think that'd be a good starting point. What do you think about that?
I think that's so, so good. I will say that I just had all these thoughts, like when I made the decision to call the doctor again. I had all these thoughts, all the things just popped up of why I didn't want to, like fear of acknowledging there really might be a problem. That was something that made me really uncomfortable. And I think making the appointment, it takes courage. You don't have to feel confident in it. You just have to be brave. All of my fears, I was fine. There was nothing serious. But sometimes we get so worked up that it almost becomes irrational. And we've stressed and stressed and stressed, which, by the way, stress is not good for your health.
Right.
And so all that time I stressed, and I could have just went to the doctor instead of putting it off 2 or 3 years and just thinking about it and over, like, what if it's a problem? What if it's this or what if it's that? Like, just face it. It's time to face it and just be like, you know what? Whatever's going on, whether I think I have a problem or I don't think I have a problem, because some people might be, I know there are some people that's like, I don't have any problems. I don't need to go. Well, if you don't have any problems, I feel like that's the best time to get established, because then you can be picky.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Then you can be picky. If you don't like that person, you move on to the next.
Yep, exactly. 100%. And I was leaning towards saying that earlier, right? That if you get there and it's just not a connection, there's not a connection and you don't feel like this person can get you to your best health, go find the next person. But there are times, though, when we have something going on that you don't have the luxury of being able to do that, right? You have to say, all right, this is the problem that I have in front of me. Let's tackle this. This is the best person to do this. We're going to, work this out together. But absolutely, I agree with you.
One other area that I want to make sure that we spend time on is for the woman who is running 1,000,000 miles a minute. And she's just running, chasing all the things, doing all the things. She's super busy. She's overwhelmed. She's like, if she was to be honest with herself, she'd probably realize she's struggling. She just doesn't maybe realize it yet. I know, and I know you know, that it's not sustainable. But I would love, as a physician, for you to share like some of the things that you see in office of what happens. Like, what are some of the consequences health-wise when you neglect, not paying attention, not listening to your body, and just running so fast, so hard for so long?
Yeah. So what you're describing is burnout, right? And so you're describing burnout where you push yourself so long and so hard that your body just, again, it can't do it anymore. And when we see that burnout, other ways that kind of shows itself in a health setting is it can lead to hypertension, right? And so we get increased stress, we have poor sleep, our blood pressure goes up. When the blood pressure goes up, that can lead to a whole other group of problems, can lead to heart disease, kidney disease, other issues down the road. The other thing that I just started to mention was this lack of sleep. So when our mind is running a mile a minute while we're awake, we sometimes get to the point where it's also running a mile a minute while we're trying to make ourselves go to sleep, right? And so getting that sleep deprivation, not only does that affect you right there in the moment, but then it starts to affect you the next day and days going forward. And that puts you at higher risk again for hypertension, but also starts to put you at higher risk for having mental health issues. So increased symptoms of depression or anxiety because we're not getting the adequate sleep that we need. The other thing along those same lines is when we are so busy and so active through the day, one of the first things that goes is that ability to slow down and prepare a meal, right? Or to slow down and make healthy food choices. So instead, we've got to get to one kid's soccer practice, and then we've got to get to this event at church, and then we've got to pick the other kid up from dance, and we've got to go check on our parents. So what's easy to do? Easy to do is to run through a drive-through and pick something up, or to grab something from a convenience store or from the concession stand at a sporting event. And then we start getting into nutritional issues, right? And once we get into a space where we're getting too heavy on the sugars and carbs and things like that, that's when we start seeing issues, again, of hypertension or diabetes or high cholesterol, all things that can have significant consequences down the road. And so as we start off thinking, oh my goodness, I'm an asset to my family and to those around me because I'm giving everything they need. I'm there, I'm able to give to them. What that quickly turns into is our body starting to rebel against us because of those choices that we're making. So not to say that we shouldn't still be those things, right? That we shouldn't still make sure that our kids know we're available when they need us, and our spouse and our parents, etc. But we've got to find some balance in there somewhere so that we're able to take care of ourselves so that we can keep going. And sometimes we just got to slow down, Melissa. Sometimes we just have to slow down and start making a plan for ourselves that also looks like making a plan for our family. We've got to start asking for help when we need it. We've got to start delegating responsibilities to others so that we can take charge of our own health and our own lives. We can't pour from empty cups, right? We cannot pour from empty cups, and our body takes a direct hit, both physically and mentally and in the long term, when we push harder than we should.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's so true. And I know I've seen it in my life. And also it becomes a cycle.
Oh,
then your kids grow up thinking they don't have a good model for that healthy behavior. And they think they have to show up at all the things. They think they don't have time to eat a healthy meal or exercise or go to the doctor or whatever. So then it just continues that cycle.
Absolutely. And you're so right. I mean, we are literally rearing the next generation. And is that generation going to look like us? And if it does, are we happy with that? Right. And so that's something that when we talk about, getting your checkups. And I love when parents come into clinic with their kids, right? So they're bringing their kid to their visit. Now, we're not doing anything invasive or anything that would traumatize the kid at that visit, but they're bringing their children, and their children are seeing them be there and take care of themselves and learn to prioritize their own health, right? And so there we go with setting those priorities and doing it purposefully.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say about this, and I sometimes I miss the obvious. So when I think about the obvious, I want to state it for those who are listening, because I'm the one who's notorious for missing the obvious. And here's an example. Before I get to the example, I want to say this, like, it's establishing a baseline, right?
Right.
It's establishing the baseline.
Yeah. And that's why people can go when they're healthy, right? Like, I want to know what your kidney function is like when you are feeling good. That way, if you come in here and you're not feeling well, then boom, let me check it again. And now I'm comparing it to a time when I knew you were perfectly fine, or your blood pressure or your blood counts, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so I love the establishment of a baseline.
Yeah. So funny story. And then I'm going to ask you about your podcast and we'll wrap up. But this is embarrassing, but it's so true.
Now, you should hear the things I hear today. There's literally nothing you can say that should be embarrassing.
This is an example of missing the obvious. So, like once a year, you go in for your appointment and you get a breast exam. And so I go in for my breast exam and I'm like, there's always something over on this side. We just normally are monitoring it or whatever. Anyways, so we go through there. It wasn't, okay, I say all that to say that it was not until last year that I realized that your breast exam that you do at home is based on the baseline. Like, like if you're checking your breasts regularly, you know what's there and what shouldn't be there. And for me, I was like, I should have like a piece of paper so I can be like, this is here, this is here, this is here, So I remember, because I have a terrible memory. I'm like, I don't know if it was the right boob, the left boob. I just know there's a knot somewhere, and it's been a concern in the past, but I don't really remember all the details. And I've moved a lot, so I have to change doctors a lot. And so, that was all of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, I should do a better job at this, because again, it's about that baseline. And then I know what's normal and what's not normal, because I can tell, because I'm doing them regularly, and I'm very guilty of not doing them regularly.
Right. And I tell women the same thing with the mammogram, right? And so, in my opinion, the very best time if you're going to get a home breast exam done is after somebody calls you back and says your mammogram was perfectly normal. That very day, that very night, go ahead and do a home breast exam, because then hey, this is what my normal breast feels like, right? Because someone just looked at the radiographic image, and told you that your breasts are normal. So boom, even if you do feel like you got a little bit of abnormality there that may be just what we call fibrocytic change, then you still know, hey, this is my normal at this time. So I love that. Or, we get one done, a breast exam in clinic. We get the exam done, then I say, hey, this is your normal, especially if we've got a mammogram behind it. Yes, I feel a little bit of something there. I may ask a patient to take their hand and put it there and feel it themselves, right? And say, all right, this is here. I felt this. Maybe you feel this. I'm looking at it on ultrasound. I'm looking at the mammogram. This is normal. But if this starts to change, or if you feel something different from this, or if this starts to get bigger, then I want to know. Because in reality, more times than not, we may do a breast exam once a year in clinic, but you can check your breast 365 days a year, right? And so the chances of someone finding something, there is a significantly higher chance that the patient is going to find it at home if they're regularly doing those exams. And so I love the idea, again, right there, of getting a baseline of knowing what is your normal so that you know when something changes.
Yes, I love that. I need to do that. And I really want to print out a little diagram so I can.
Oh, you should. You totally should. Absolutely.
Have a little key of number 1, number 2, number 3.
Mm-hmm.
This is here. This is here. Mm-hmm. That kind of thing. Because so many people, they don't. And again, it's about preventative. I think for a long time, healthcare has become almost like a sick care, and let's change that narrative and make it about healthcare, wellness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Prevention. What is it? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? And so there's so many things that we can prevent and can prevent them perhaps even easier than we can cure or treat them later. So I love that.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay. I know you have a podcast. It's so, so good, y'all. If you want to hear from a physician's perspective, people need to go listen to your podcast. So I would love to give you the opportunity, give yourself a little shameless plug here and tell everyone where they can find you and about your podcast.
Thank you so much. And again, it's been a pleasure to be here with you. So my podcast is called Headed to Healthier. It's a mix of shows. So some of the episodes are just me out there recording, giving health education, health tips. But I also have some great healthcare friends who come and join me as well. And so they speak specifically to their specialty. And so I've got so many awesome friends lined up, gynecologists, neurologists, endocrinologists. I've had a fantastic nutritionists come on already, some other family docs, and we really just talk about all things related to helping women become healthier. And so when I think about my general audience, it's women who, just like we talked about today, who lead busy lives, but who have made this commitment to this themselves to become healthier, but they don't know where to start. And so they get some of their information from Google, they get some from Facebook, they come up with a list of things to ask their doctor, but they never actually ask them, either because they forget or because they're embarrassed to ask them. So we are going through all those things on the Headed to Healthier podcast. Their new episode airs every Wednesday morning. And so if your listeners are looking for a place, just more health education from a reliable source, right? A reliable and well-trained source, then Headed to Healthier is certainly the place to find it. So again, thank you so much for letting me do that shameless plug.
Yes. Well, I've been listening to it and I just saw there was a new one on blood pressure. And I know for myself, my goal isn't to be on medication forever. I think the medication is absolutely necessary for where I'm at in my life right now, but I'm doing everything possible to one day not need the medication.
Good.
And
absolutely.
So I love that you're sharing on that. I just started listening to it. I haven't finished that episode yet, but I'm like, oh, this one's really good because I found myself with very high blood pressure from, and it was stress, like it was chronic stress.
Absolutely.
Probably 2.5, 3 years of nonstop stress. And next thing I know, I'm headaches all the time, every day. Complaining of a headache. And finally, someone was like, my mom, I'm sure, was like, have you checked your blood pressure?
Yep. There you go.
I got me one of those machines, checked my blood pressure, and it was like through the roof. And I was like,
bless your heart.
Yeah, that was not good. So that episode, I already was fascinated. It's so good. So thank you for sharing your podcast. Thank you for coming on my podcast. And I can't wait for our listeners to meet you and connect with you and be able to continue on their own health journey? Because again, we have to do better, and we need to nurture this body that God has given us.
This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed our chat today.
And that's a wrap, friend. If today's episode spoke to you, don't let this be the moment you hit pause and go right back into that same cycle. Whether you're ready to go all in and commit to 6 months of breakthrough coaching, or you only want a single unstuck session right now, you'll find all the links in the show notes or on my website at Melissa Batt. That's Melissa Batt with 2 T's.com/breakthrough-coaching. Let's keep taking those baby steps together.